Now, I want everyone who's listening to get your pen and your paper out because we are about to learn together. I want you to know that the Lord has endowed us with contentment at this time, faith during the storm of God's mercy and wrath, even though the winds blow and the earth shakes. Trust in God. You know, sometimes you don't want to give all the information out, but you have come to realize that that could be a reason for so many delays in our prophetic words. But there is no man that can exceed the plans of God. There is no one that is as strategic as him on how he's going to go about what he created, because he created everything, even in the hands of man. Whatever man is creating, he created it. Everything belongs to him. Now, what man tends to do is they will take the design, the original design, and from the codes and been analytical about it, they can produce from scratch a copied production or a copied design. And that is exactly what the enemy does. A prophecy that had came up and I had put at the corner, I found AI in the spirit. I heard the Holy Spirit say, I'm going through the back door. When I looked up one of the definitions of back door, one of them was closely related to what I was already looking up the information on. It said a feature or defect of a computer system that allows hidden, concealed, secret information, unauthorized access to data. So, just like someone would use the phrase, I'm backdooring them, it's an illegal entry. You are not supposed to be there. So, the question is, how did I get here to this? I'm going to walk you through it. First of all, reverse engineering is the process of recovering a design specifications of requirement and products function from code analysis is called software reverse engineering. It's also the process through which the design of the product is extracted and the same design is used to reproduce the new product is called reverse engineering. So, just in essence, that this type of copying of a design can be reproduced from scratch. It kind of covers the copyright of it. If someone wants to know how something is made, they might want to reverse engineer it. They might want to see what is actually wrong with it by knowing each part. They might want to be cost efficient and replace certain parts by knowing what it took to design it. It's basically finding efficient ways to get there without going through the hard work. Essentially, this is cheating to me. So if you go to Second Timothy chapter 2, verse 5. Similarly, if anyone competes as an athlete, he does not receive the victor's crown unless he competes according to the rules. Verse 6. The hard working farmer should be the first to receive a share of the crops. Reflect on what I am saying, for the Lord will give you insight into all of this. So I referenced it as being as cheating because cheating is if you're cheating on a test, you didn't read anything to get there, you didn't do anything to get there. You basically rode off the back of someone who did all the hard work while you stole the answers. That's not fair. Okay, let's go ahead and cut to what I'm trying to say here. So, I had this vision that there were people who were being used by the enemy who were trying to collect information on certain people's phones. And while they were doing that, they were trying to see what they were looking at, like how I guess a scientist would try to see how a person's mind works They use different processes like allegorithms. I hope I said that right. I talked about heuristic. It's just basically a study of the mind. It's a psychology approach to study the mind, but they're using programs now, using AI to be able to understand how a body of people think, whether they're classifying them and grouping them into certain groups. Either way it goes, I think if you're going to use people as experiments, they deserve their pay. The only reason why I say that is, when does the statue come in to when it is okay for us to be able to steal other people's thoughts and ideas, because we're all individuals. But there are some people who are very mindless and they don't know how to think for themselves. So what they do is they like programs like this where you're able to copy and be like someone else. That is not original. That is not God, needless to say. So there's one feature that this replicated design does not have, and that's the original source. Just like the enemy, it's one thing that the enemy lacks, and that's he's not the creator. And when you are not the creator, that is what distinguishes you from a replica copy, or in some cases, duplicate copy. Now, with AI, it's starting to sound like humans are becoming almost trying to be equivalent to God, or in trying to use sources that make them almost like God, but that's impossible because he's strategic and he's always going to deconstruct to reveal its original designs. So when the Lord, he related this to an earthquake, and in an earthquake, there is a strike, slip, and fault. And if you think about it, you just listen to the definitions. Let's see. The definition of slip could be false step, misstep, slide, fall, trip, creep, steal, drop, disappear, vanish. Fault could be responsibility, liability, guilt, accountability, attack, censor, condemn, reproach, reprove, run down. The slip doesn't attract notice. And the fault definition was weakness in character, a failure. Now, let's take that one step at a time. It's a character flaw, is the fault. It's arrogance, it's aversion, it's disturbance like a mental illness, it's dishonest, a liar, a compulsive liar, it's a coward, it's a character flaw, things that make you fail in life. Now, the definition of an earthquake is caused by a sudden slip on a fault. So, caused by a sudden false step on a fault, a steal, a trip. So, we'll say false step, okay, on a fault. What do we say fault was? Of a guilt, a reproach, a reprove, a responsibility, a liability. Okay, so this fault is the character flaw. So a sudden false step in character flaw. Wow. Just looking up definitions and synonyms. So without a doubt, things will always have to be looked at in a reverse engineering state, because the designs of it, which is your character, once it's been striked, which is to hit or deal a blow with an object or fist, this will bring out the weakness in character, so the fault. And the slip is without attracting notice. So a person can be altered, just like an earthquake. Isn't that interesting? So that's one thing that AI can't do. When something does something to it in a certain way. Like, say if I got mad, if two people were in the same room, if we got mad at the same thing, then we don't have the same character, but we have the same morale. So no one has the same character. So it's exposed once a strike hits it. So something has to affect it or bring about some type of emotion. So all AI can really do is bring about like just the basic part of it. It's not recognizing the emotion when certain things hit. It doesn't have a distinctive character like we do as humans. So let's go a little bit deeper. If we think of a natural phenomena like or weather, fog, thunder, earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, tornadoes. We know that tornadoes and hurricanes cause earthquakes, volcanoes, because with the water moving in a hurricane, it moves the land. It moves the land in such a way so that earthquakes happen because it's shaking the earth. So do tornadoes. So those are strike situations that can cause and affect other things and also create other things, like I said, such as earthquakes, volcanoes, and such to the land. So when something hits you, just like with the earth will call your body the land. If something hits your land, it's going to shake it in some way. And how do we figure out how to not have our foundation shaken? It has to be built on Jesus Christ. So a person with a character flaw, which we're relating that to the fault, you will know by the reaction of that character flaw of how it hit. And a lot of our foundations and some people aren't together. So when something strikes it, it could react in any way. And that is exactly how the earth obeys God. We obey God with our actions. But there's just things that you can't duplicate. And that's a human being, no matter how hard you try. The Lord is bringing attention to character flaws, things that we are not normally wanting to face, even all the way down to mental illness, because mental illness is coming from things that we did not want to face. We didn't want to face the arrogance or the cowardness or the compulsive lying. We're just, there's people that are disturbed, and in those character flaws, it's a fault because you're not knowing how to handle situations correctly. And with that, it can still take you back into cycles. Okay. So I believe in my heart that when creation obeys God, so do we. So there's a lot of earthquakes going on right now, and there are a lot of tornadoes happening in my surrounding area, and I believe that this is a wake up call. So just like all over the nations, when things happen to the land, it's happening to you. So the question is, where is your character flaw? There is a heart check situation happening here. AI doesn't have a heart. They can't tell you how to think and how to feel. So when a tough situation comes your way, will AI teach you how to handle that situation, that traumatic situation? Are you going to revert to mental illness? Are you going to allow people to tell you who you are? Because that is the structure that we are raising our children up in right now. We are teaching them to not have a brain to think for themselves. And I'm totally against that, because if we had to learn everything from the bottom up, everyone else should be also. I remember when I used to have to do math problems. Those math problems, I had to show my teacher I could actually work them out. Otherwise, she would say that I cheated. But that was okay with me. So to sum things up, when I talked about the psychology part of it and I talked about the biblical part of it, unless you are in the race to understand how you got there and to be able to learn how to reverse some things in your life and asking God to help see you through things instead of just sweeping it under the rug and cowarding down to it, or going to just pop a pill to feel better about it. Because if God is capable, if He is able, you can be healed. And there are just some people that don't like it that you know such things, and they try to take you out of here. But believe what I'm saying. Trust in the Lord, because right now He is doing something so strategic. And the reason why He is gathering His children up is because He needs you to be in position. You need to be prepared, because there's just things that AI cannot do.